It's the Masters, the season's first major, a tradition unlike any other, and a time for players to outperform even their own high expectations. This takes focus, commitment, and trusting the best golf ball for your game. That's why the majority at Augusta National will rely on the Titleist Pro V1 or Pro V1X. They deliver superior performance, consistency, and unrivaled control. Titleist, the number one ball at the Masters, the number one ball in golf.
I've never seen anything like it before, and to attempt to hit the ball out of there is pure madness.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Cameron Smith.
This is the one that I've always wanted to win since I was a little kid. So it just feels pretty amazing to be able to get it done today.
It's amazing that it's my destiny to be the first Aussie to win. Just incredible.
Hello and welcome to our special Masters episode of Playing from the Tips, Golf Australia Magazine's preview and tipping podcast covering all corners of the golfing world, which are all almost exclusively pointing to Augusta National this week. I'm your host, Jimmy Emanuel, taking you and the Amen Corner obsessed so-called experts on the journey into all the details of the 88th Masters tournament. First of those supposed experts is a journalist, podcaster, and maybe the hardest hitter of a keyboard in world golf. Who else could that be but Rod Morri, or maybe John Huggan, but we've got Rod. Rod, welcome.
I got a complaint on a train once about my typing.
James Marcazzani complained. He gave me a lift to Cathedral Lodge one day, and I was working the whole time. He said, I've never heard someone make so much noise with a laptop.
This is not recreational typing, people.
No. This is
professional.
Done with
you
vigor.
probably wouldn't get it like
No.
it's a working media thing.
Oh, okay.
You'd be a quiet typer, wouldn't you? Like an office person.
I don't know. I don't know. I need somebody else to judge that for me. I don't know.
I've broken 3 separate space bars on 3 separate laptops
Yeah.
with my giant thumb.
You hit a space bar with vigor. Yeah.
Gets a workout.
And next, the other voice we can hear and we are graced with is the presence of the man who blew up the internet when he published his own pimento cheese recipe. And of course, that is 2023 Podcast Tipper of the Year, unofficial, Adrian Logue. Logue, welcome.
Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah, I'm looking forward to making. It's a master tradition in the Logue household.
Yes.
Is making pimento cheese sandwiches with a few crisps and a nice gherkin or something on the side as well. I think that's
one of the worst sandwiches in the world.
Is saying nice gherkin like saying fun run? It's just a contradiction in terms. Doesn't make any
I
sense.
like a gherkin.
a gherkin,
Gherkins too.
some chips, like crisp.
What is pimento cheese? I know you've told me before, but I can't remember. It's some sort of liquid thing, isn't it?
No. I mean, it's a paste.
A paste.
Yeah.
It's
At
like
what viscosity level do we move from liquid to
In my
paste?
recipe, I say you mix it until it looks like American
my
food.
Recipe. Until it looks like American
That's
food.
the instruction.
that's very good.
Brilliant.
As we do every week before we dive headfirst into Augusta and the Masters, it's time to look back on the week that was, ups, downs, tipping results, what we liked and disliked. I'll start. Nelly Corder, 4 wins in a row.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And a match play
Absolutely
win too.
unbelievable. Yep.
Yeah. Well,
Can do it all, can't be beaten.
Different conditions, different courses, different states, different
Give her the
formats.
chevron now.
Yeah. Ryan French on Monday queuing for. I'm sure lots of people posted, but he was the first one also who said there should be an asterisk next to the Masters field this year because Nelly Corder's not in it, not playing.
Very good.
Which is very, very, very good. Well done.
There was the Augusta National Women's Amateur as well. Lottie Woad, one of the great names in golf already. Bailey Shoemaker as well, who was runner-up. Ingrid Lindblad. That was everything you kind of hope.
And delivered the finish that you want.
Yep.
Someone gets into the clubhouse early with an amazing round. Can another player hang on and birdie the last 2?
Yep.
4 of the last 5 and birdie the last 2. Just extraordinary stuff.
And starting to get those players who win or go close and say, I watched it 5 years ago or whenever the first one was and it inspired me a bit. That's cool.
Your man Akshay, who won in Texas.
I was going to say
part of the
Akshay
very
Bhatia.
first
Drive, chip, and putt.
Yep. My long putter brethren. Pulled out a shoulder, doing a fist pump.
Yeah.
I feel him. In so many ways, I feel him.
Athlete.
Yeah, athlete. And Denny McCarthy laying the sod over one in a playoff. It was all
that was
all very
so
funny,
bad.
wasn't it?
yeah.
Could have been Saturday at Mangrove.
What a brilliant putter. I'd never seen Denny McCarthy
Best putter in golf.
on any coverage ever before, but the moment he stood over the ball, you're thinking, oh, wow. Like the
putter in
little
golf.
bit of Crenshaw, a little
new
bit
Lauren
of
Roberts?
Tiger about
Yeah,
it as well. A
it's-
little bit of Lauren Roberts there.
Yeah,
Popping
so
the
good.
moss. Really great.
There was another playoff for Liv, Sergio Garcia losing, Dean Burmaster winning. That's, they're getting some better finishes, but of course then Dean Burmaster, you won a bunch of times, you're not playing the Masters. Do you think we're going to get that every single time? WPJ with one of the more remarkable ones with almost a complete washout, but 18 holes and a 3-way unofficial win.
That's
Including
really,
Jess Whitting,
really-
who is from Western Australia and a genuine good player and great person, Jess. So
She went
What a
pretty
shame.
deep in a tournament in Asia recently as well,
Yep.
didn't she? It was,
Yep.
Good
had a
player.
hole in one and won a car earlier
That's
in the
right.
season.
90,000 is going to finance this season, yeah.
Yep, and was doing it all with clubs she's had for a long time. So has a hybrid she's had for 14 years in the
Wow.
bag that she got as a hand me down from her dad.
Wow.
Okay.
That'll be the downside of the first sponsorship she gets, won't it?
Yep.
Then it is a thing.
I said to her, she was telling us that on the range the other day, and I said I actually sold those in one of my first jobs. So that shows how young you are and how old I am. Anyway.
that was a real shame for everybody up there, and I can imagine how hard the green staff would have been working to try and get the place. But they do all of that hard work, and then it's not enough. It's just, it really is a shame.
That
because they've
tournament's
been-
just had a run of bad luck with weather.
with weather, it really does. Anyway,
Lastly, on last week, we managed a collective 3 top 10s, and quite remarkably, actually, 3 players who finished a shot outside the top 10. So we're close. That's what I'm saying.
look, we're coming into this week. That's the sort of form you want.
That's right. You don't want to
You don't
win the
wanna
week
peak
before
early.
a
No,
major.
that's
right.
So, and that's what we've all done by not tipping Nelly somehow. So we now sit at 7 collective wins, 54 collective top 10s for the year, as always unrivaled in golf tipping podcasts produced by magazines in Australia. Let's dive into the 88th Masters, where 89 players will attempt to become the next to win a green jacket. Despite the course being the same each year, Augusta National Golf Club does change from year to year, and our man to deep dive into what's new, different, or otherwise is you, Logue. Take it away.
Thank you, Jimmy. I'll set the scene for you.
That's what I want to hear.
Literally. and
Paint a word
figuratively.
picture for us. That's what we're here for.
Augusta National is designed by Alistair McKenzie, obviously greatly influenced by Bobby Jones. 2 men who essentially bonded over their love of the old course and attempted to recreate some of the shot values of the old course and some of the principles of design of the old course in an inland setting. And the thing is, it's a lot hillier than the old course.
Giant hummocks there at Augusta National.
It's the thing that it's the thing that people say about Augusta National when they first see it is, it's a lot hillier than it looks on TV. Indeed, it is.
And remarkably, because I saw someone post this the other day, and it's something you don't think about. You never see the horizon. You never see the ocean. So what you often see is hill into hill, which creates this depth perception where you can't actually see. It's remarkable when you go and stand there.
Element there.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Bit of deception.
Yeah, I mean, notably the second shot on 10.
Correct.
Is like you're downhill on this awkward sort of hanging line. You're just looking straight into another hill with the green sort of perched up on
And
top of it.
you stand
Very
up on top
awkward.
of that hill above 9 green and look down to 10 green. And
Yep. And that's exactly the point I want to make is that everybody usually stops with that comment about it's a very hilly place, much hillier than you think it is. But how do those hills affect the play of the course? And I think that's the interesting part of it. And it's often the way you're made to stand is awkward, particularly for the shot that is being presented to you. I think about the 9th, I think is a great example of that, where you've got this downhill lie, and the green, you're sort of looking over your left shoulder at the green above your head, and it's a green that's sitting at an awkward angle as well. And in the back of your mind as well, you're thinking, this is going to come out low. And this is a green where I don't want to be past the pin because it's actually the toughest putt on the golf course. But the other thing about the 9th is if you have the length, you can actually drive it all the way down into the flatter part. But then, and we used to see Norman do this, right? Famously, I think he did it, I can't remember what year it was, where he spun it off the front of the green.
96, that's where
It's
he
like
lost
he's
the
put it
top.
right next to the pin and it's spun all the way back off the green. He's hit a great drive and he's got a flatter lie and he's short iron in his hand and he's
Made a meal of it, let's be honest.
made a meal of it.
Yeah.
But what do you do from that position? What he really needed to do is take a little less club and try and hit it a bit lower and take the spin off it and all that.
Greg, if only you'd consulted Logue before that final round in 96, it might be a very different golf world.
Golf might be unified.
But I think if you go from hole to hole, obviously the 11th is another one where there's all sorts of shot values asked of you, depending on this time on what side of the fairway. I think you can make a case for the left side of the fairway being as good as the right side of the fairway, depending on you and the sort of shot that you're comfortable playing. If you want to hit it more over the pond, the left side of the fairway is good. If you want to hit it, sort of shape it around the pond, the right side of the fairway is good. Use something that slopes around the green, that sort of thing. I think that's what sets it apart from many strategic golf courses, is that you can choose the path that's best for you. And the lengthening of the holes is something that's, over the years, has retained those shot values. And if you had to give up one or the other, if you had to give up what the intention was off the tee versus what the intention is on the second shots, you would definitely sacrifice the tee shots.
Yeah, good call.
But, for the most part, the tee shots are also still relatively interesting because it's what sets you up for the second shot that's best for you. That long tee shot on 9 wasn't best for Norman. In that case, he might have been better off the downslope.
God Fawcett, if he's listening, will be tearing hair at this nonsense.
The 11th, I think, I find endlessly fascinating because for me, I can't make up my mind whether I would want to be hitting over the pond or around the pond.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you'll never.
I'll never have to. I'll never have to.
And thankfully, you'll never have to chip it from where Larry Myers did.
But the 11th, of course, is the one where it's probably changed the most of all off the tee. It's now a massive dogleg left.
15, I think. With the trees they put down the right of 15, given the trees already poke out on the left, that really changed that.
Yeah, 15
a lot.
Yeah, it used to be really, really wide. And all the greens, actually. 15, another one, of course, the second shot is extremely awkward. It's either a long iron into a shallow green or it's a wedge, like off a horrendous lie.
Do whatever you can not to have to lay up.
Denny McCarthy is going to lay a divot over that one every single time under pressure. And very shallow green, you've got to take the spin off it. It's very lot going through your head, no doubt, on that second shot on the 15th. So that's the thing I look forward to seeing in the Masters each year is how each player chooses their pathway around the course and how it suits their game as well. You know instantly when a player's in a position which is awkward for them.
That's right.
It's
not
a
position. They hit it there, you go, not necessarily.
It's not necessarily a position that's awkward for everybody, but it's a position that's awkward for them, or a tee shot that's awkward for them. You get a lot of that in the Masters. Less in modern day Masters, I've got to say. But when you look back at those old tapes,
it's a really good
80s.
example, isn't it, of the course being the 90th player in the field. It's true every week, but it's particularly true this week because we all know it so well.
Yeah.
And as the player's saying to himself with the club still over his shoulder, I wish I hadn't hit it there, we're sitting at home going, you don't want to hit it there.
And I think every player in the field is familiar with what's come before them.
Yeah.
Where they stand there and they know a shot that's been hit there before and go, do you know what the worst outcome would be if I did what X did what year?
Yeah.
And suddenly that's a question mark.
That's going through their head.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going through your head there. So one change to the course this year, the second is now about 20 yards longer. The tee's moved back and to the left a little bit. It's now the longest.
It's the Kennedy hole.
That's the Zapruder change. It's now the longest hole on the course, 585 yards. Back into the left, I think, makes that you can take a little less off the dog leg.
It's almost the tee's almost on the fence basically that was there.
Is there any property they can buy?
I think they already have what's behind there. Yep.
Weather for the week is looking around mid-teens to mid-20s every day. Probably a little bit of rain and storms on Thursday is the mail I'm getting. But other than that, it's going to be pleasant sunlight. Should be good television viewing.
Course is apparently pretty firm
it
at the
looks
moment.
firm.
It's every report is that it's pretty firm as it has been for a couple of years. So
I don't think we'll get a Zach Johnson type of Masters out of this.
No, it doesn't have that sort of a feel to it.
It certainly looked firm in that Anwar.
I was going to say, the problem with that, of course, being that the way Augusta National set up, they can just turn it off and on, so that gives you no real indication. In fact, the players talk every year, don't they, about the change from Wednesday's practice round to Thursday. Different golf course.
Yeah.
You step on the first green Thursday morning and putt it off the green because it's like, whoa, what happened there?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Wednesday as well, I just want to take a parting shot at the par 3 course, which I think is terrible. It's just uninteresting, small circles for greens. It's basically Hudson Park with azaleas.
All mail to alog@gmail.com.
Hudson Park with azaleas.
If you miss
I wonder if
Hudson
they'll
Park,
put that up in the clubhouse.
cruelly snatched away from us by, was it Burwood Council snatched away Hudson Park?
I don't know yet. They just closed it one day. Just announced it on the web.
If you're nostalgic for Hudson Park, just turn on the par 3 tournament. There you go. That's Hudson Park.
Okay. Let's turn our attention to some players that will tee it up on Thursday. And, of course, it's a major. Everyone's kind of worth watching. Even the older guys who can't win, it's exciting to watch them. No Bernhard Langer, of course, post-pickleball incident. But John Rahm defends his title after an impressive showing, particularly in the late stages last year, to win a second major. That was all before he joined Live Golf, of course, where he's yet to win this year, but has been very consistent, top 10 pretty much every sort of week. But what does that mean going into a major? We don't know. He's always hard to base his form off anyway, so he strikes, now that he's won there, as one of these guys who'll be there every year contending and sort of getting close and everything like that. So does Scotty Scheffler, who's arguably the hottest player in men's golf this year. We say, of course, men's golf because Nelly Korda's on much more of a heater than he is. Putter shows up. Scotty Scheffler's a chance. Brooks Koepka's another of the Live contingent, runner-up last year or co-runner-up last year. Also won a major. Absolutely take nothing out of the fact that he's not playing that well at Live Golf events week in, week out. He couldn't care. He doesn't pay attention. That was the case when he played the PGA Tour as well. And he is going to be another one who looks likely to contend here a lot and just has to sort of get over the hump of getting right into Sunday contention. He sort of was there in 2019, was there last year.
I think he'll have learnt from last year.
I think
he was very open about how upset he was with himself for falling into a bunch of traps that he really shouldn't have. And I suspect that lesson certainly held him in good stead at the PGA later last year. But I think again this year he will feel a bit like some of the Augusta Nearlymen over the years. He should already have a green jacket, and it's been his own fault that he doesn't. And that'll be burning him. And that's a dangerous Brooks Koepka to run into, a determined Brooks Koepka. So
that shows you how good of a major player you are, that the ones you haven't won necessarily aren't someone else's doing of playing great golf that you've done something.
That's right.
That's the Norman thing. I mean, he should have won a whole bunch more, but it was mostly him who did it to himself.
He wasn't outplayed by him for the most part.
No.
You know.
You've got the likes of always mentions for these sort of things: Jordan Spieth, Dustin Johnson, Hideki Matsuyama, Xander Schauffele, Tommy Fleetwood. Veterans are always a chance at Augusta. Tiger will get to a bit more in depth shortly. Phil Mickelson showed last year. You can kind of never discount him. He's got a new caddy, so brother Tim has given it away. John Yarbrough is on the bag, and there were some videos of him reading greens for Phil the other day, and he is renowned as one of the best green readers there is as a caddy.
A deadly combination.
So that's a very good combination around someone who knows the speeds and everything so well there. Sergio Garcia lost in a playoff last week, so he might be, a bit of an outside chance. And then you got young guns as well. Akshay Bhatia, as we mentioned before, makes his debut after being a drive, chip and putt champion. And Ludwig Aubert, remarkably, makes his major championship debut.
Yeah. It's extraordinary. Already played a Ryder Cup, never played a major.
And what's he ranked in the world? He's in the top 20?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. So, okay.
The
top 20 without ever having played a major.
Yeah. Then you've got Victor Hovland, another one that
Wyndham Clark's first Masters.
Wyndham Clark's first Masters, we were going to say, as well. He's already won a major and top 10 in the world rankings. It's kind of a strange year with all those guys. People don't typically win the Masters in their first time, but there's a lot of guys there that, you'd be very brave to say there's no chance. But then what about this for a little tidbit? Jamie Kennedy on X, or the artist formerly known as Twitter. Over the last 20 years, the average Masters champion has been 32 years old, ranked 17th in the world with 8 previous appearances at Augusta.
Who is it?
Tyrrell Hatton is currently 32 years old, ranked 17th in the world, and this is his 8th Masters.
Is Tyrrell Hatton 17th in the world?
And falling.
Remarkable.
That is remarkable. And
probably not, but yeah.
Wouldn't it be just that I love Tyrrell Hatton at his tantrum. Some people don't.
There was a beauty on the weekend.
Tyrrell Corporation.
Yeah,
he's just magical. You would love to see a meltdown on the 18th hole where he had a tantrum and then came through to win that.
Would be a remarkable thing for a guy like that to win at a place like that where everyone gets frustrated and he gets more frustrated than anyone at golf courses that do nothing wrong to him. So
he's more used to it, maybe.
Yeah,
better prepared.
He lives in that constant anxious and angry world.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's Rory McIlroy. So third last week in Texas. Now played 15 Masters, made 12 cuts, 32 rounds under par. Done some work with Butch Harmon that looks a little bit like it's mainly backswing sort of stuff. Doing some really, really focused sort of practice swings and pausing and stuff. could it finally be the key for Rory to win at Augusta?
It's about the wedges, isn't it, with Rory? People talk about the putter, but a lot of times the putter is a result of he's further away from the hole than he should be from where he's driven it because his wedge play is not as good as it sort of should be. So, and it's always been an issue for him. I read a great piece from 10 years ago with his coach talking about how they've always had trouble because he's so speedy with his hands. They're very hard to control on the wedge. Almost needs a different swing. Short answer, I'd love to see Rory get it done, but I've always had this awful niggling fear that he's the next Augusta Nearly man in the Wisecoff, Norman mould and Els.
Results actually don't even reflect that. I think his second, was it last year? Is his best,
he came second.
2022 was his best ever finish at Augusta.
Yeah. Tends to backdoor those top tens, as he does in tournaments quite often too. He's out of it.
Wisecoff, though, for example, had 4 second-place finishes.
Yeah. He hasn't shown as much as you would expect from the way everyone speaks about it, but as the kind of generational standout in terms of ability and that early,
especially after 2011.
Exactly.
Just the odd loose shot, and I think Augusta more than any place in the world punishes the odd loose shot. And
he's such a momentum and confidence player. I always say you can see when Rory's going to play well. He's got this bounce in his step.
Exactly.
The head looks like Dickie Knee from Hey Hey It's Saturday when he's got the hair grown out, that he walks around and you can see him bouncing around and he seems to walk through the gates of that place and the bounce isn't there. Yeah. He's on edge and
pressure.
It's just...
So we've got the Shark, the Golden Bear and the, what did you call him?
Dickie Knee.
The Dickie Knee. There's a mic.
Yeah. With all that to download internally, who do we think for our first tip of the day is going to win the Masters this year? Logue?
Well,
that's for those listening at home, that's a confident sigh.
Since you've, if you were going to pick me to go first, I was going to go with Scott Scheffler. So I'll just go with Scott Scheffler.
Okay. So I'll take him. Be a bad bet.
Taking him off the table.
That's fair
it's
enough.
A defensive move, not just anything else.
He's playing chess. We're playing checkers. Right?
Can you tip anybody but Spieth after last week's antics?
Oh, that
is just peak Spieth. We are back to peak Spieth, and when he walks through drives through the gates here, he becomes a different player every single year. He's extraordinary.
It feels like it's a Rory year to finally have a go, but I can't, in all good conscience, tip him. So I'm going to go with Hideki. Hideki showed some stuff last week in Texas that was really impressive. He's won there before, obviously. He's another one of these ones that putter has to show up, but like a ball striking freak that doesn't get full due for how good he is.
Just back to Rory for a moment. We talk about Norman and Faldo 96. If he'd played with anybody else in that final round, would Norman have won? A lot of people think so. If Rory had played with anybody but Patrick Reed in 2018, would we be looking at different results? There was an element of that to it, I thought.
Well, I agree with that. Absolutely. For both of them. Reed's game
absolutely
elevated without question with the concept that he could beat him.
It's the Masters, the season's first major, a tradition unlike any other, and a time for players to outperform even their own high expectations. This takes focus, commitment, and trusting the best golf ball for your game. That's why the majority at Augusta National will rely on the Titleist Pro V1 or Pro V1X. They deliver superior performance, consistency, and unrivaled control. Titleist, the #1 ball at the Masters, the #1 ball in golf.
Let's move along to our next little subsection, and Aussies in the field. 6 there are, trying to join Adam Scott at the Champions Dinner for 2025. Rod, you're going to take us through the Australian
Can we call it 6.5 with Ryan Fox?
Yeah.
Do we claim a bit of Ryan Fox?
Absolutely.
We tend to do it with most successful New Zealanders, so why not?
Yeah.
So I'll say 6.5. I'll leave him till last. All right, so the list is Cam Davis, Jason Day, this is alphabetical, Minwoo Lee, Cam Smith, Adam Scott and Jasper Stubbs. Of course, Ryan Fox at the end, even though not alphabetically at the end. Go through it one by one, I suppose. Cam Davis. I've always had he's a better player in some ways than his results speak, but he's got to get to the pressure point of the tournament, and that's when he really shines.
Yep.
Whenever he's been in the mix, had a chance, he's either got it done or not. So he's certainly got all of the physical skills required to play Augusta National. He's only had one appearance there. He finished 46th in 2022. No shame in that. Yeah, very few people figure it out. To make the cut on your first go around Augusta National is good. I wouldn't pick him to win unless we got to the 11th tee Sunday afternoon and he was within a shot or two. And then that will be that's really his place.
Bold of you. That's very bold.
Yeah, that is bold, isn't it? You'd say that about any
I
other
witn't
player in
pick
the field.
someone to win until they're within a shot.
Until within a shot or to a lead with 6 holes to go. Yeah. I'm right out on
I was dripping with sincerity.
It's more about what seems to happen to him when he gets close. I remember that 2017 Australian Open, as you probably do too. Not a mention until he was through about 8 or 9 holes, and suddenly it was just.
Well, he did hole out on the
64, I think.
11th, I think.
Anyway.
He holed out his second on the.
Not without a chance, but I wouldn't tip him. It'll be interesting to see how much better he goes this year than 2022 as well. He wasn't there last year. So, Jason Day, what do you say? Well, he's not in his 2015 sort of 16 form, but Augusta's been mostly a happy place for him. 4 top 10s in 12 starts, made the cut 10 times. 2011, I think, is when we most look back. That was a hell of a tournament.
It was a hell of a tournament.
McIlroy with the hook into 10.
Yeah. Jason Day, you see the footage of that, and Jason Day was just full of piss and vinegar.
Yeah, well, it was the three young guys. There was him, Rory, and Ricky, I think. Did they play together? They were all sort of fresh kids of the next big thing.
Well, not in the last day.
No, not the last day, but they grouped him in the first round. And they were all the talk that week. And
it was his first Masters. He almost pulled it off.
Yeah, that's right. And, of course, Adam Scott and Jeff Ogle were right there deep into the back nine as well. It was a fabulous week for Australia until about the 15th.
Schwartzled.
We got Schwartzled, exactly. So look,
Child.
Yeah. I don't know. He's not back to that 2015, 16. It's been a sort of a mediocre year. He was in the top 10 heading to Sunday last year. Shot 80 in the final round, Jason Day. So I'm not sure what happened there, whether he maybe hurt himself.
Didn't want to waste it for this week.
It depends which Jason shows up, I guess. But certainly he knows his way around there, so you wouldn't count him out. Min Woo Lee might be one of the most interesting players in the field. This course should suit him perfectly. He's a flamboyant player, kind of in the mould of, that not quite, but that Mickelson, Palmer, Seve kind of
shots.
Loves to be the centre of attention.
Yeah.
And that is his ace in the hole. I mean, he goes weeks and weeks and weeks, doesn't play particularly well, but if he gets in with a show, and particularly in a big event, loves to be the centre of attention. That will stand him in good stead. I don't think it'll be his year quite this year. He's played
Form's
twice.
been a little bit.
Yeah,
here
terrific debut, missed the cut last year. But again, I think he'll be one of those players a bit like Spieth where you've got the rest of the year, then you've got the Masters, and that's a different week. You can't take much from the rest of the year before he gets there. One thing I do think about him, he will be exciting.
Yes.
He will make the highlights most days. He'll do something extraordinary at some point. So, yeah, I think he'll really feed off the sort of vibe there. Cam Smith. Now, is it beware of the wounded golfer or is it the hills of Augusta are too much for somebody who's been ailing in the week before?
Yeah.
It's a really tough walk this over 4 days, and that's got to be a factor at some point. If he's been unwell and his energy or his strength is down, that might be just enough. Who knows? Having said that, he's got a good record here, obviously. He's one of those players makes birdies in bunches. We saw it a couple of years ago when he shot 66 in the final round. That sort of player can do really well here. Again, if they can be somewhere around there. If he's 4 or 5 back going into Sunday, you wouldn't write him off.
No.
He's the sort of player who knows if I've got to shoot 63 to do it, he's one of those who can go out and do it.
I just don't think he's in particularly consistent form. He's showed a couple of things. I think at Hong Kong
this is the difficulty of tracking someone like that playing live golf, inconsistent sort of in terms of how regularly they play and the golf courses they play and everything like that. He showed something in Hong Kong, then he shows something, he gets sick in Florida. You really don't know.
Of all the players who went to live, the high-profile players, he feels like the one to me who the competitive edge was dulled slightly.
Yeah. I think he's a player who needs to be playing a little bit more week in, week out, and keep his competitive edge honed. Whereas Brooks is more like
he's much more alpha.
He's just going to get up for the events that he wants to get up for.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I wouldn't tip Cam this week, but then again, as I said, beware the wounded golfer. Who knows? Adam Scott, well, he needs no introduction here, obviously. He's still Australia's only winner. He's quietly been playing last year. I know you've been following him a bit, Jimmy. You tipped him a couple of times. He's been playing much better than the headlines. Well, there's been no headlines about Adam. He's kind of drifted out of that high-profile space, and he's just another golfer. Tied 14th last week.
Yeah.
It's been a good year for him.
Grinds, just such a grinder.
Didn't break 70 last week to be tied 14th.
Is that right?
I believe.
Never gives up.
No. Look,
never gives up on his career, never gives up on any round, just grinds it out, always.
Has not missed the cut here since 2009. First round seems to be the go. If he has a decent first round for the most part, he tends to have a good week. So important to get off to a good start. And I think that's probably true of him more broadly too, don't you?
Yeah, it's very much his anti kind of Tiger. Tiger used to always sort of very slowly come out of the gates. Adam needs to come out of the gates well to then find himself in that stuff and seems to lift as much as Adam's not Min Woo Lee in terms of the centre of attention been where he loves being all the time. He seems to, in the version of that, of leading or being near the lead of a tournament, is where he thrives, plays his best golf.
Yeah, he's one who speaks often. Every time you listen to him in a press conference, when he talks about golf, the word rhythm will come up. The rhythm of the swing, the rhythm of the course, the rhythm of the week. And I think that's what that's about for him. If he's in a good rhythm from Thursday, that'll carry him all the way through.
Absolutely.
So you wouldn't write him off. He'd be it'd be almost a bit of a Ben Crenshaw story there.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was the prodigy at all that time, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, 10, 12 years later, he grabs the second one. There's a few players like that.
It's his 23rd Masters.
Yeah. He's missed, 3 cuts, I think? I had it written down here, but obviously haven't it. Yeah, last one he missed was in 2009. That's quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
All of that. So, yeah, look, go Adam. Would be lovely to see him do it again. Who knows? Jasper Stubbs. Well, he's already won, hasn't he? Just by being here.
Just by being there.
I really, really liked, you would have been on the call.
Yeah, I was.
I really liked his attitude towards, goal one, make the cut, and then just try to push forward from there. That's realistic. It's achievable. It's lofty. It's got everything. It's a really nice, mature attitude towards it. Clearly, we won't be picking him to win this week, but will be an important week in his career. He'll probably get to play practice rounds with the likes of Cam Smith, Jason Day, Adam Scott, and who knows who else. Yep. And he'll leave Augusta, be it Friday or Sunday, knowing where his game stands against truly the very best in the world. And that's an enormous lesson. So it's hard to find that out. Yeah. When you get to sort of that level, if you're one of the best in Australia, where does that put you in the world? Well, we think it puts you right up there, but you don't know till you go there and test yourself. So huge week, I think, for Jasper Stubbs, and a really nice young man.
Really good. Really
terrific
good kid.
effort.
And got Aussie veteran caddy / yardage bookmaker and Simon Clark on the back.
Adam's former Simon Clark? There's a couple of Simon Clarks.
There's another Simon Clark. It worked for Aaron Badley for a long time, has done some work for Jeff Ogilvy, done work for a lot of guys, worked in Japan for a long time, but caddied for him at Royal Melbourne when he won the Asia Pacific Amateur, taking him with him.
That's a team effort, really. Asia Pacific.
One of the nicest guys there is, Clark.
So it'll be interesting to watch that. And as I said, he's already won. If he's still there Sunday, that'll be a massive victory for him. So well done. And the half Australian Ryan Fox tied 26 on debut last year. He's got the long game for this course, no question. We know that. Belts at miles and can do all that sort of stuff. Putting and iron play, not his strengths, and that's kind of not a great formula for Augusta. Augusta is really about iron play. The best iron players in Augusta because they hit it in the spots where you don't three-putt. Yep. If you hit it in spots where you're going to three-putt with your irons, then you're going to struggle all week. If you can hit it in those little boxes around the hole that give you a chance to two-putt and occasionally have one fall in, they're the players. When you look at Spieth when he won in 2016, just extraordinary iron play. Tiger, of course, one of the great iron players. And what a shame we won't have the best iron player of the last 20 years in the field, Taylor Gooch, according to the show. So he could show off his wares.
Yes, indeed. Let's get a top Aussie. Rod, we'll go to you first, given Logue felt he was, thrown under the bus and he had to tip first last time. I don't understand that, but okay.
I look, and I keep coming back to Adam. Mm-hmm. I just feel like Adam, he's got everything, which unfortunately, sorry, Adam, that's probably the kiss of death.
Yeah, that's right.
But I do think Adam, not missing the cut since 2009, that tells you something about that. He's almost playing a home course there, in as much as he's most likely to make the weekends. I just think Adam out of all of those.
Logue?
Yeah, I'll go with Jason Day. It's I'm not holding great hope for any Australians this year, unfortunately.
The caveat being, of course, every player at this level on the right week can win it. So it only has to happen on Wednesday afternoon. Jason hits one shot and goes, that's every golfer's happening. Yeah. That's the swing.
Exactly.
He's got that for the week and he's unstoppable.
Both of them, Jason Day and Adam Scott, I think the Ben Crenshaw comp for Adam Scott's quite good actually, but they either one could be having that sort of week that Jeff Ogilvy had in 2011. Yeah. It's just you're going to spring up, and this could be the one that you get to contend in again.
Whereas McIlroy seems constrained and without the bounce when he walks in there, Adam and Jason seem to gain that level of comfort and enjoyment no matter where they are with their games, which the cut streak of Adam Scott says that exactly. I think Adam Scott as well. He's been trending in all the right areas. He's played better earlier in the year and kind of slowed back down, but last week was a good sign of where he's at.
He's going to do something this year. You've just got he's going to do something. Maybe it'll be the Open, maybe it'll be here, but Adam Scott's got one more hurrah in it feels like. It's going to be this
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
There's another major where he's going to get right in the mix of it and everyone's going to go, how good is he? So wedge play is always a concern with Adam, I think, not unlike Rory.
Yeah.
probably escaped a bit of criticism because the putting was always a focus. The putting has been a lot better for a long time.
Statistically, he's up there with the putter and has been for a long, long, long time. I remember that 7-hole playoff he had at Royal Pines with Greg Chalmers and Wade Ormsby, who fell out after the sort of thing, first or second hole. He drove it basically in his own divot 7 straight times and couldn't get it inside 20 feet from the flag any of the 7 times with a sandwich in his hand. And if you give a world-class player that's 7 cracks at the flag, they're going to hit one stiff, aren't they?
Yeah.
But not even close. And so that really sort of pointed out.
Yeah. Finally, on Augusta, Tiger Woods comes back to action after a last start withdrawal with illness at Riviera, where there was ambulances and all sorts of things and questions like everything goes with Tiger. Of course, last year he looked fairly miserable, in pain. The rain and everything like that made it wet and hard walking for a man with basically half a leg. And he did withdraw here last year as well. What do we think happens with 5-time winner this week?
I feel like last year we finally got over Tiger. Even the most ardent believers after last year sort of went, actually, maybe he's done. You can never say he can't win. You never say never with Tiger and golf, but my goodness, that would eclipse Jack's 1986 at the age of 46 if he could get up and do it again, as you say. But the fact that he's there tells you he thinks he can win.
Yeah. And he was there nice and early. He was there, playing practice round.
Looks to be walking quite comfortable from what I've seen. But
it looks to be a bit more comfortable. But
Sunday afternoon, if you've already walked it 3.5 times, it might be a bit different given the treatments that he's got to give his leg just to sort of get out there. But
he's up at whatever time in the morning just to be ready to walk, let alone play a golf tournament. So,
having said that, he's the biggest thing golf's ever seen in terms of, media juggernaut and all that sort of stuff. So any time he tees it up, it's interesting. It's always interesting. He's electric, those players.
I think the best we can hope for these days in a major with Tiger, or in the Masters in particular, is the sort of, was it 98 that Nicholas beat Tiger?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I'd say.
On a bung hip too.
Not truly contending, but...
No. Nicholas had a hip operation not long after that because the hip was a mess.
Yeah.
It feels like a made cut and then a little Saturday afternoon run and everyone gets a bit excited and then he finishes tied for 26 and everyone goes, that's pretty good.
Here's the alternative. Could this be? I mean, what article he's going to select to paste on the fridge a la Bob Drummond, Jack Nicklaus in 86?
Yeah.
Could Tiger have that moment? He's never had the world telling him en masse, you can't win ever in his life.
Yeah.
Just might get his back up enough. I mean, he won a US Open literally on a broken leg.
Yeah.
Wow. Like that's...
So he has done it before. Like, there's just so much energy required over 4 rounds, I think, that and even looking at John Rahm last year, who was so strong, but that final round was just so taxing mentally and physically, just between him and Koepka just dueling it out there.
A 12-round heavyweight fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Both a mess afterwards.
It was just such an intense pressure cooker that, obviously he's been there and done that better than anybody almost in the history of the game, but it's very difficult mental. There's more the mental thing than the leg for me.
Yeah, well, I think he requires now, which he's never experienced, everything to go his way in a week.
Yeah.
Which is physically that he doesn't wake up any of the days with the leg being sore and needing more treatment and unable to walk. He needs his golf game to show up, and he needs the other guys to give him a hand.
Kind of. It was the other thing.
If it gets to a Sunday and Tiger's played really well, everything's gone to plan, and it's up against Koepka and Rahm in a final round duel, he's going to need a lot of help from those guys, probably to stay right.
15 years ago?
Correct. It's
they would have just they laid down, didn't they?
But he was winning golf tournaments with not his probably his B game, because the ability level, but also the intimidation and everything like that. That's just not going to happen anymore. So everything kind of needs to go his way.
Epic if he did it. Can you imagine that? Even I might miss golf riding for just a bit if he managed to get it done on Monday morning our time.
Given we are talking Tiger, it's a natural segue into an outsider tip. Logue.
Does Joachim Neiman count as an outsider?
He was my thought too.
Based on what rankings he does.
Then I'm taking him. Yeah. Joachim Neiman is my outsider.
Yeah.
Didn't pick it back up, so I had Joachim Neiman. I think he's got that reason to play, doesn't he? He's got something to prove. Players with something to prove, particularly who've come from a less than country club background, tend to be pretty dangerous. I think he's done quite well here before Neiman. I didn't check his results. But
yeah, surprisingly,
he's a low ball hitter, isn't he? Which shouldn't suit him.
But then he did all right at Royal Melbourne as well in the President's Cup, and that, so like it just immediately
He's a good player, isn't he?
a lot of stuff stacks against him. But then you think, yeah, actually, he can. He gets it done with that game of his, you know.
I'm going with you. I'm going with you.
Okay. I'm going in the great history of slightly odd-named American Masters winners and going with the man who laid the sod, Denny McCarthy.
Yeah, sure.
Think, you know.
That'd be a 2 week
I would love
stretch
to.
of
I want to
golf,
see
wouldn't
more Denny McCarthy.
Yeah.
That's
really, really keen.
I'm all in on Denny.
Yeah.
Like it's like he puts the dots off it.
My first view of him, it was like he crouched down to read a putt in a way that I don't see any tour pro these days crouching down to read a putt. Like there was nothing mechanical about it or anything. He was just sort of stalking around and then crouched, and he was holding his putter in a weird sort of way, and then just sort of moved into it, stood over it and stroked it, and it was wonderful. I was thinking, wow, that guy can putt.
Yeah. And it feels like a year for one of those guys. We've had a lot of like the expected or overseas players and all this sort of stuff. You need a Larry Myers every so often.
I agree. I feel like it's a year for a surprise winner.
Yeah.
There's too many guys at the top of the game with legitimate claims to be the favourite this week that somebody from the background is just going to sneak over the top Bradbury style and say, thank you very much, fellas.
Yep, exactly. Before we do finish, there is some other golf on this week. Perhaps the most interesting outside Augusta, and maybe even
more interesting in some ways.
more interesting in some ways. Women's World Sand Greens at Walcher in New South Wales.
Walker.
Walker.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Sand Greens. WPGA Tour of Australasia event includes Maria Ho Uribe, who's part of getting the invites to play the other two events was to go here. She spoke.
That's a good idea.
I spoke to her and I was and I said, what about that? And she goes, yeah, well, they sent that thing. And I just went, yeah, that's fine. Then she goes, I actually looked at the fact sheet and went, all the greens are made of sand. And so she actually played an Epsom Tour event where Dwayne Smith, husband of Sarah Jane Smith, was caddying, I think, for Cassie Porter, and said, what's the deal with this? So he's given her the drum, don't land it on the greens. You know, you got to rake it and do all that sort of stuff. All the players are pretty much getting their first taste of it.
Well, they did do sort of an exhibition at Dunedoo a couple of years ago, didn't they, with the Ladies European Tour field, which was interesting. In some ways, it's a shame it's on this week because it's going to be televised. I think the last round is on 7+ down here. That's the sort of thing that'll grab world attention.
Yeah.
It's just different enough that people go, look at these crazy kids in Australia, they play on sand greens. We're not the only place in the world that plays sand greens, but it's sort of very much associated
US
with
sand green champion used to get a Masters invite.
Is that right?
Yeah.
There you go.
What hope would a sand green champion have at Augusta National on those greens?
I think it's one of the ones they took away.
Yeah. Cruel world.
But no, it'll be worth watching. Walker, which has on its sign out the front, ranked the best sand green course in New South Wales.
We should take
self-declared.
You could just put that up there and everyone would go, okay.
Jimmy, we should go and record
World's best coffee.
World's best Australian podcast, tipping podcast made by an Australian magazine. We should go and host a special one from out of Walker.
I'm very jealous of Tony Wiebeck, who's actually out there covering it all week, because it's going to be fascinating. There is a men's version coming later in the year as well, but it is going to be something special. So if you do get a chance to pick up a little bit of that.
You know, full marks to Golf New South Wales for some of this sort of innovative stuff. That's a terrific idea. Who knows what kid might turn up there this week and see something that sets the course or changes the course for the rest of their life. They fall in love with the game and they go on to become a pro, those sorts of things. Those things happen at these
Country New South Wales has produced
much
a lot
more
of,
so than
lot of stars.
Yeah.
Well, if you fall in love with golf out there, you can get access, much more so than the city.
Yep.
That's why we've got so many good players have come from country areas. They just get access. They can school holidays and get to the golf course at 7:30 in the morning and leave at 7 o'clock at night.
Exactly what I did every school holidays at Maitland.
You're not doing that at most Sydney clubs.
3 of my friends turned pro from Maitland.
You're here.
Yeah.
There's Mark Hayes will also be there. Can you imagine anyone more in their element than Hazy in Walker covering a sand greens event?
What the pie situation is in Walker.
I'm sure he's sure he's reached out to the great Brendan James for a little guide, but I'm also hoping Walker as just a town has enough Pepsi Max to keep the big fella charging for the week. There's also the Australian Junior Amateur out at Gosnells Golf Club in Western Australia. Always interesting to see who comes out of that. There's a brother-sister duo from Gosnells who are getting lead talk early. Okay. Harsh for them, but interesting enough.
We need stories, mate. We need stories.
One of the brother who has a little plaited rat's tail. So new era of golf. I'm right around that.
Is that Anthony Kim? Does Anthony Kim have the rat or is it just a ponytail?
No, it's just a little like bun situation. Yeah. And you've also got Challenger PGA Tour of Australasia Q School final stage this week. So it's a kind of big week locally. Obviously, all those people who looking for a job or looking for another job if it doesn't go to plan.
They don't make news, but they're hugely important weeks, aren't they, for those guys?
Massively. That's everything. Rod, you've been jacket worthy this week. Maybe not green. Fuchsia.
Thank you very much.
Plaid.
Fuchsia.
No. He's not a heritage man. No way.
Rod, not in that class.
Rod would just look like such a clown in a heritage.
I don't think
I would love to. I want to see that now.
You could the inner heritage jacket's redundant in that sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like a clown.
Like, are we going to get another recipe this week? Maybe a Masters Club?
No. I mean, the secret formula that everyone wants to know is the Georgia peach ice cream sandwich.
Yeah, which
are thankfully
briefly
supplied
and came
this
back.
year. Yeah.
And it is the best thing on that menu.
Way to mess with our heads is like take it away one year, and now we're going to be guessing, could they just do that again?
That's just
take that
Where
away
are the
again?
guarantees? Where is it written that this can't happen again?
Imagine the Masters tournament board just sitting around and being like, let's just mess with them for a year and take it away.
Exactly.
Like,
just to let them know that could happen.
Yeah. Imagine being my man, Preston Smith, in the communications offices at Augusta National, probably dealing with inbounds about what happened to the ice cream sandwiches when your job is to run media for one of the biggest events of the year.
Yeah. First question you would have got this year, the ice cream sandwich.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sure from the media assembled, yes. Thank you, gents. That is all for episode 58 of Playing from the Tips. Follow all the Masters action on the Golf Australia magazine website, golfaustralia.com.au, including this week multiple fantastic The Thing About Golf podcast episodes that John Huggan is compiling from on the grounds at Augusta National this week.
First one be out a bit later today. Ben Crenshaw.
Yeah. Well, you've said it now. It's got to be out.
You already said it last week.
I said it last week, and I've been worried ever since. But thankfully, overnight, it came in by email via WeTransfer. Huggy got the job done, so he saved me.
Yeah. So keep an eye on that website all week because there will be some more other stuff from Huggy as well. But those podcasts he does Masters Week are special.
Everything about it.
Thank you for listening, and we will be back next week on Playing from the Tips.